get to why I've got to throw carpet right here in just a moment. It's right behind the camera. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The turd is in the garage. Welcome to the Boosted Fam, everyone. Today we are going to be going over a lot about bank stuff. I hope you all enjoyed the new toy there, the little entrance of the new very leaky 7.3 Power Stroke that we added to the channel, and I will go over at the end of the video. I've got some clips of how it left me stranded in less than 24 hours buying it. But that's what you get with an old truck, right? So on this side of the screen, you can see where I already tried to edit this video, but everybody was mowing. I did it outside with the truck. Everybody was mowing and all this other stuff. So my next step was I had to come down here and redo it all. So hopefully the audio and everything turns out pretty good down here. But Banks Power reached out to me on my last EPA video and everything about DPFs. Everything is right after the EPA's October 1st. Laws and regulations came through with everything about, you know, 08 and newer, you need to have your DPF system on there. It came with it, it needs to be on there. And so I brought up Cord from PPEI and Gail Banks, and some of my information I gave out was taken differently than I had wanted it to be taken. So, Jay, sorry, had a blank for a second. Jay and John from Banks Power, they are basically Gail's right-hand man, or that's what it seems like to me when I was speaking to him. Jay reached out to me, and I will start off with his nice little comment here on that actual video. Banks Power, 2 weeks ago. While we appreciate the mention, the story you've told about Gail is incredibly inaccurate. Gail never deleted emission equipment, and he was never in the EPA's pocket. Owning a California business, Gail advised CARB, which is California Air Resources Board, which you'll need to remember for all these little cheat notes I have from the podcast that they put out. And there was a period of time in the early days of diesel performance when CARB did not have a formal emissions test. As this period lengthened, Gail asked questions. If you have no formal test, how do we comply? After years of requesting a test procedure, they finally asked him to advise them on setting up a test. Had he not accepted and aided in this process, they may have created unpassable tests. At least unpassable tests by smaller tuners and limited budgets. Gail and a handful of other manufacturers made sure the test was fair and could be passed by aftermarket companies who were working with a limited budget and put in the work. He's a record-holding racer who promotes clean diesel since day one. After all, black smoke is just wasted fuel. So then he actually posted that on the YouTube channel, and then that's when I immediately seen his message to me on Jay from Banks. When I seen the message from him on my Instagram, because YouTube and Instagram same name, so it's not that hard to find me. So he went ahead and said, hey, can you give me a call at so-and-so number? I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I was expecting it to be some, you know, immortal bashing by someone that is very intelligent in the diesel community, deals with it as a career. I do not. I'm your average Joe that may know a few little things more here and there, and I express everything that I hear so other people know. And I was waiting for him to start bashing me and everything and be upset about the video. But we had an extremely professional conversation. By the end of it, you know, he gave me all this information I'm about to give you. But he's like, hey, if you're ever out in California, you want to have dinner or something, we'll go have dinner, then we'll give you a whole tour of Banks Power. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. You know, that's how that conversation went. He's very professional and an extremely intelligent individual. He gave me Gail Banks' history all the way from growing up when he first started tinkering with vehicles. I believe he was like 8 years old or something like that. But anyways, he gave me a link to a podcast that you can do on Spotify or your Apple one, whatever Apple is. I'm an Android user, so I don't know all the Apple stuff. But the podcast is 133 minutes long. At the 84-minute mark is when the information that I'm going to be giving you starts, but the information is 30 to 40 minutes long, so I'm going to try to sum it up a little bit quicker. All right, the thing that really caught Gail Banks off guard is whenever the meme that went social or viral on social media and everything, it was, Scooby-Doo and Frank off Scooby-Doo, where they saying they're demasking the EPA, they ripped the mask off, and it was a picture of Gail Banks. So that's what really got him, it spiked his curiosity, let's say, and what is going on all the social media and everything. And that's when he had his people like Jay, John, and all of them, searching social media. That's where they found my video because I mentioned them and I mentioned DPFs and all that stuff in the EPA. So they reached out to me, and that's what started the craze about them trying to reach out to everyone and give them the correct information. But so CARB, the California Air Resources Board, that was created in 1967. And CARB, which is crazy because their original test for diesels, whenever the first turbo kit came out for non-aspirated diesels, like your IDI engines, things like that, your semis, everything along those lines, what they had is it was the equivalent of a piece of plexiglass, tinted plexiglass. And what they did with that was they would hold it up to the exhaust whenever they're doing whatever they need to do. The highway patrol is the worst about it in trying to get semis, but a tinted piece of plexiglass, tinted, which obviously is a no-go if you're trying to see how dark it is after there is soot left on it and stuff. So it seems like it'd be a very inaccurate test. But they would hold it up to your exhaust and then see how much soot was on it, then measure how transparent it was afterwards, which doesn't make sense being that it was tinted to start. So that obviously tells you it's not a very good test to begin with. So anyways, Gail Banks was always complying with all these, always passing these tests, whether in my eyes it wasn't a very intelligent test. But then in 1999, CARB approved Gail Banks saying, hey, you're passing all these tests with flying colors, you're doing a great job, but hey, by the way, next year, these tests will be invalid, you need to find a new way to make it a lot better. And he's like, okay, well, just let me know what the test is, and we'll go from there and we'll make sure we comply. And a big thing is Gail Banks has, and everybody that works for him has said specifically, we have never deleted a vehicle. We do not do that, which seems very reasonable. He works, his big multi-million-dollar business is across the street from the EPA. So would you really risk your business that you built your whole life for? And they're still making great money because they do gas, diesel, they do everything. So they're still making great money and everything. So they have no reason to risk it. But anyways, back to my little notes here. So they had that. So in 2000, everyone was asking, especially Gail Banks, but all the tuner companies was asking, hey, well, what is this new test? And CARB just simply said, we don't really have a new test. So there for a couple of years, there was no testing at all, and that's where everybody started putting bigger injectors, just everybody as in consumers and all that stuff, little shops, started putting bigger injectors, started putting stacks in, straight pipes, taking the cats out, and all these other things. And that's when CARB decided, they finally came up with a test because it's like, okay, we're basically going to shut this down. We're going to shut down all this black smoke in general. Before the EPA was even, 100% involved, and they were being at the beginning of their creation. But CARB, what the test that they wanted to create a couple years later was, it was specifically a engine dyno test. The engine out of the vehicle dyno test. So you had to be able to create a specific dyno for it. So all these tuning shops, small, big, everything, would have to have their own area set aside with an engine dyno and all the technology that you need to just run specifically just the engine, all these other variables, and plus you had to pay for the engine. You couldn't just have a customer show up in his truck and be like, hey, let me check these tunes on your truck real quick. No, the engine had to be taken out of the vehicle, so unless somebody was extremely nice and let you borrow their brand new truck and rip their engine out to do some testing that you could blow it, very unlikely that somebody's going to do that for you. So you'd have to go buy an engine, stand, dyno, all this other stuff. And Gail Banks and a couple other companies, Gail being one of the bigger ones, he stepped in and said, hey, this is not right. This is not fair. You're going to put so many businesses or so many companies out of business due to this. It's going to become me and literally one or two other companies, because Gail said, he's like, I've got the money to do this and make this machine, but nobody else does. He put over $1 million at the time into that machine to be able to do that so that he could comply with it if he needed to. But $1 million for any other company, especially back in the days when this first started off, 15, 20 years ago when they're trying to figure this out, it would have been impossible for most people. And that's when Gail Banks, or they reached out to Gail. They're like, okay, well, if this is unfair and too expensive, could you help us create a test? And this is with CARB, not the EPA. And that's where Banks Power and several other tuning companies, just Gail had more of the financial backing where he is an established company. He was able to put forth a little bit more than other companies, but they wanted to create a test that was passable by everyone, that was a whole lot cheaper, to where you didn't have to do that engine stand and everything. So they created this test, and that was all of Gail's involvement in all this. It was just simply to help create a test for CARB so that multiple tuning companies and everything can kind of get their hand in on the cookie jar there and, have their own piece of the pie. It wasn't anything of he worked for CARB, he worked for EPA. It was none of that stuff. So that is a majority of everything and Gail Banks' involvement with the EPA, CARB, all that. I didn't listen to the last 40 minutes of that podcast because I wasn't too worried about what the EPA and everything is doing now. It's just they have specifically done what they could to help the whole community, diesel, gas, all that. And right here is Gail's famous line, any black smoke is lost potential, unburned fuel. So that right there tells you that, he's said that since day one, so why would he be all about saying, hey, let's put all this black smoke out into the environment, or all this soot and all this stuff. But that basically ends all this stuff right here. But at the end of the day, all Banks Power did was, with a lot of other tuner companies, make it to where it was a more feasible process, and to make it a more feasible process to where other tuner companies could be involved, and it could be a big industry. It wasn't he was what I've heard is getting in bed with the EPA and all that. He has never dealt with the EPA. He has only dealt with CARB, and that was only from a business standpoint for the diesel community. It wasn't to help CARB. It was actually to help all the other tuners, the diesel world, and everything. He was just making it financially available for other companies to get in on the diesel community. But anyways, we will go ahead. If you have any questions whatsoever, I have let Jay and John know that I am doing this video right now. I texted them right before sitting down here to let them know that I'm doing this video. So if you have any questions, concerns, or anything, if you want to put them down in the comments below, I will answer what I can. And I'm sure Jay and John will probably be looking over what comments are put down there. And Banks Power, it'd be kind of cool, to the average person. Maybe they could go ahead and answer some of those questions you have about any of the history or anything. I'm just trying to give you a lot quicker version than 40 to 50 minutes of it on a podcast. I'm trying to give you 15 and 20 minutes. And part of that is going to be what we're jumping into now is my 1997 7.3 power choke dying on me within the first 24 hours. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Stopping by for the first time, please subscribe. You all have a great day. There we go. That's a way to start a video, right? Just a stack of cash. And it is because we're here to pick up my next project vehicle. Let's see what's going on down here. Does anybody remember from the other video? Boom, there you go. That's right there. Here we go with the new 1997 F-250. We are dual tank, so obviously, when you sell a vehicle, you don't give somebody a full tank. So we gotta fill it up, see how much it costs, right? What do you think about going from a new Platinum to a 1997 F-250? Good. Yeah, you're good with it? Most people wouldn't be. Me personally, I love it. Always wanted one of these trucks. Well, just while we're sitting here waiting to fill both these tanks up real quick, first time I've ever had a dual tank vehicle, but you can see there is a little work that is needed. Maybe new wheel wells here. And that's a Craftsman toolbox that happened to come with it. Actually kind of convenient, huh? Oh, it's all right. Look, Craftsman toolbox. Look at there. Oh wow, we get free tools. Is that what it looks like? Huh? Don't have a key for it, but hey, kind of cool to have. That is starting on tank number 2. Yes. Do you think she's excited? She had too much sugar or something. But of course, receipt for write-offs, of course. Why would you not take that? Oh yeah, there you go. Filling up both tanks at 71 bucks. And I have to go ahead and show this real quick. Hey, sweetie, what did you mention to me when you first got in the truck for the first time? What'd you say to me? What'd you talk about? What'd you talk about?
Out the window.
What'd you say though? All right, where my daughter's obviously go ahead and hop in, way too young to know what crank windows is apparently. She's like, Daddy, they have those window things. It's got the little handle. Seriously, that's what she said to me. Jeez Louise. Well, here we go, guys. Found on road dead, right, Eddie?
Yep.
Not even 24 hours. Vacuum pump went out, but we get to take this sweet aluminum duty over there back to the house. Well, I'm being dropped off. I don't get to keep it. But we'll be back to pick up this guy tomorrow.